In one of our previous tutorials, I was asked in the comments how this Kong&Ha site worked. So here, what we have is this resizable layout that looks something like this. We can drag this handle and move it across. And we can also have a minimum and maximum so it doesn't look too terrible. For instance, I wouldn't want it to be too small. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how we make this from scratch. So we've got our own version that looks like this. This again has an invisible handle, which I put here. And what we can do is resize this layout, and there's a minimum and maximum to these as well. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how this was made. So to make a resizable layout, of course, what we need is a layout to begin with. So what I've just quickly done is made a site that looks like this. As we scroll down, what we can see is we have this kind of split view layout. So let's quickly talk about how this actually works. So quickly, let's go to the index.html. We've got a header, which is currently just at the top up here. And then the rest of the content is in a section tag. And there's another section tag just down here as well. So two section tags. Inside each section tag, we have a with the class of handle, which currently is visible, but I'm going to show you that in a second. And then a div with the class of content. We have some copy in here and another div with an image inside. Same thing here, but the opposite way around. We have a div with the class of content, and then the copy is inside here as well. So what I'm doing in my style sheet is essentially having a section with two things inside it, the handle and the layout. In the layout, we've got a grid, which is 50-50. If we want to change this, for instance, we would say this is something like 30-70. And if I save it now and go back to the site, you'll see this is 30-70 and 30-70. So what we're trying to aim to do is change this value. Basically, we want to drag our handle and essentially update these values in here as well. We're going to start at 50-50, of course. And what we also need is a handle. Now there is a handle in here. It's the a dot handle. Now currently it's just in there, but we can't see it. So I'm just going to show it by adding a background color of red. So now if I save, we can just see on each section there is this handle. Now I've made it like 48 pixels wide because we want some kind of area, but we don't want it to be too big. We want it to be kind of just right. So around about 50-ish pixels felt about right for this. So what we want to do is when we drag this handle, we want to basically update the layout separately. So how do we go about doing this? Now, the first thing we need to do is add a little bit of JavaScript because when we're interacting with our site, JavaScript is the thing that users will interact with to then update things. Now, at the moment in our site, we don't have any JavaScript at all. It's fairly kind of basic site at the moment. So let's add this in. So we're going to make a new file in our folder called handle.js. Again, it doesn't really matter what we call it as long as it makes sense to you. Now the code that goes in here is going to be some JavaScript, but this isn't attached to our index.html right now. It's just a kind of lonely JavaScript file. So back in my index.html, I'm going to go down to the bottom. After our last section here, I'm going to add a script tag. And on this script tag, I'm going to give it a source, src, equal in quotes to what? Well, we want to add our handle.js, handle.js. Now, currently this isn't going to do anything because of course there's no code in handle.js, but what are we trying to do here? Now, our complex layout is actually a bit more complex than the one here because we've got multiple sections. So what I want to do is pick each individual section, go over each section and say, well, there's two things I want to update in each section, the handles position and the layouts position. So what we're going to do is a loop. So let's go back to our code. In handle.js, we're going to pick all of the sections. So const sections, and again, const sections, it could be called const whatever you want. This is going to be equal to in our document is a special word, it means the page. We want to do something on our document and we want to do a query selector all. And in brackets, what do we want to pick here? Well, I want to pick every single section. Now, if I was to do this in CSS, what I would do is section, which selects all of the sections, just like we have in here, section. To give it a background color, we're going to do the same. So in quotes, section. Now, what we want to do is something in each individual section itself. Now, the reason for that is when we have these drag handles, I want this one to be independent than the one below it because I might want them to be at different positions. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to basically self-contain each one. So back in our code, we're going to say sections dot for each. And we're going to run it with some round brackets. What do we want to do in here? Well, for each section, we want to run some code. We want to tell it what the section is and then do some code on that section itself. So what we're going to pass in here is a function. It's going to look something like this. We're going to give it a name. Section is what we're going to call it. So for each individual section, again, this could be called S if you want to. It could be called potato. It doesn't really matter too much as long as we know what it means. What we want to do is make this section do some by doing some arrow and some code with some curly brackets. Now what we can do in here is write some code. Now what do we want to do on each section? There's two things we want to get within each section itself. The first one is, if we look at our index.html, is we want to get this handle. So let's just pick each individual handle in each individual section. Hard to say. So in my code, what I'm going to do is a constant called handle. And this is going to be equal to what? Well, what we did previously is we said document.querySelectorAll to pick all of the sections on the page. Here, what we want to do is pick the one handle in this one section. So on this section, and again, if this was called S, this would be called S as well, as long as these match. We want to do a dot query selector. Now we're only doing query selector because we only want one of them. When we did query selector all, we wanted every section. If there was 5, this would run 5 times. So in here, what do you want to pick from here? In quotes, we're going to say a dot handle. This is basically equivalent of doing section space a dot handle in CSS. Now the other thing we want to get out of here is the content itself. So back in my index.html, I want to do this class content because the thing I want to update in my style sheet is this section space div.content. I want to basically update this 50-50 layout. So here what we're going to do is pick that content. So const content, this is going to be equal to, on the section itself, we want to do a query selector, not query selector all, we just want one of them. And there's only one in here, so div.content. So again, this is similar to what we did with section space div.content. Now, what do we want to do when we do anything in here? Well, the first thing we want to do is something to the handle. Basically, when we click the handle, we don't want it to go to the next page because technically at the moment it's a link. Links by default will go to the next page. So we're going to add a little bit of code underneath. We're going to say handle.add event listener. And in round brackets, we're going to run this and say, when we do a click, what we want to do is some code. Now, because we're doing an event listener, we can also pass in a function with the event in here as well. So we're going to do round brackets, an arrow, and then some curly brackets. But what we can pass into here is also the event. What do we want to do when we click? Well, we don't want to do anything. So we're going to say event.prevent the default thing from happening. Now, the default thing from happening usually is we would go to the next page. And we can see this very easily if we go to index.html and we pick on the first handle, we say, let's go to test.html. So if we go on the link that goes to test.html, if I click this at the moment, this doesn't do anything. Notice I'm clicking. But if we didn't have this code, let's just quickly comment this out and save and refresh. This will go to an error because there isn't a test.html. So basically we're stopping the link from doing its default thing. What do we want to do with this link though, this handle? Well, what we want to do is listen for when we press the mouse down and then move and then let go. So to do this, we're going to add another event onto the handle. Handle.add event listener. And this is going to look very similar to the one above it. We're going to use something called mouse down instead. And then what we're going to do is run a function. Round brackets, arrow, curly brackets. In here, we can also pass in the event because we want to do some custom things in here. And let's open up the curly brackets. Now, the first thing we want to do is prevent the default thing from happening. When we click the mouse down, we don't want to do the usual thing. In this case, it would generally be like selecting things because when we click and drag, it usually would select things. So we're going to not do that. We're going to prevent the default thing from happening. Because what we want to do is listen out for some drag events and moving things around. So what I want to do when I start to press the mouse down is I want to do some calculations and move things around. So I'm going to make a function within my mouse down. My function, I'm going to do a const called drag, and this is going to be equal to a function, round brackets, an arrow, and some curly brackets. Now what we want to do is set this up basically when we start. So we want to do this as soon as the mouse is down, we want to do this drag function. So here what we're going to do is across the whole document itself. Document.add event listener. And this we want to listen for any movements. So when we press the mouse down, then we go in, turn this thing on and move this around. So mouse move. What do we want to do when we move the mouse? Well, we want to run this function called drag above it. So just drag. Now, at the moment, this won't do anything. If we save, we can go to the site and see. We can start dragging and it's not doing anything. It's not going to the next page, which is a good thing, but we're not actually doing the thing we want to do. Well, what do we want to do in this drag function? Well, what we want to do is calculate where the handle should be on the page, first of all. We want to basically say, well, how far should this be across the page? So I'm going to basically do a calculation here. I'm going to add a const within my drag. I've opened up my curly brackets, and I'm going to do something called like left pos, left position, let's call it. And what we can do now is basically calculate where we should be based on where the mouse is. Now, to find out where the mouse is, we can also add an event to this drag function as well. So whenever we use an add event listener, we can basically pass in a function, an event. So here I'm going to put in the event into my drag. So when I'm moving my mouse, it basically updates where I am on the page. So I'm going to pick this by doing event.page X. This is something that's built into JavaScript. Now this is just saving it currently to a left pos, which doesn't really mean anything. But let's just quickly update our handle's left position. So if we look at style.css, we can see here that we have a left and it's at 50% currently, which is in the middle of the page. What we want to do is change that handle's left position. Handle.style.left. And this is going to be equal to basically the left position that we've got in pixels. So I'm going to add some backticks here. So backticks, because I want to put things inside a string, and I'm going to use a $, curly brackets, left pos. And I'm going to put after the last curly bracket, pixels. So let's save that and see if it works. So what we'll get now is if we refresh the page, is this left handle should move. And as soon as I let go, it's still following me around, so I can't ever let go of it. And this is true of this one as well. So notice if I click this one and start to move, they both move because they never let go. So what we want to do is basically let go. So we're going to add another function as well into my code. So once we've done our drag, we want to basically say stop the drag. So let's add another function called stop drag. And this is also going to be a function. So round brackets, arrow, and then curly brackets. Let's open that up. We also want to stop, we put in the event as well, first event. And what we want to do is basically say when the mouse is up, run stop drag. Document.add event listener in round brackets. We're going to do mouse up. And when we do mouse up, what we want to say is stop drag. So when we put the mouse down, all of this code runs. We're moving it. Every time we move, we're running this drag function. So it's moving this handle. When we let go, we want to stop everything, but nothing currently happens to stop things. What do we want to do when we do mouse up? Well, what we want to do is basically say, turn this and turn this off. So to do this, we're going to say document.remove event listener. We don't want to listen to mouse move anymore, this drag function. And we also want to stop itself from running again. So same thing with mouse up. We want to stop drag, basically kind of destroy yourself at the end. So let's see if this works. So back on my code, I'm going to refresh. And what I should get now is I can click and drag. I can let go and it stays in position. I can click again and it moves and starts again. I let go, it moves and stays in position. Because we've done this in a loop, we can do the same thing, let go, and it stays in position. So we've got the handle moving, but what we want to do next is basically this layout instead. Now, how do we do this? Now, one thing to kind of remember is if we look at the code from the style sheet, we've got this being 50% and 50%. So rather than this being in pixels, wouldn't it make sense to do this in percentages instead? The answer is kind of yes. So what I want to do is this left pos not be in pixels, but let's change it to a percentage instead. This is the handle at the moment as well. Now, currently this won't work because this is trying to do it based on a pixel position. So if I refresh, this should fly off the page. And we should see if I go over here, because I'm at maybe 50 pixels when I'm here, and we're at 0 over here. So it's way too much. Now the problem is basically we've got this pixel where I'm on the page, but I want to divide this by how wide the page is. So I'm going to do a calculation here. My left position is where I am across the page, divided by how wide the page is. Window dot inner width with a capital W. Now this is going to give us a 0 to 1. So I'm basically going to times this all by 100 to give it a percentage. So if we save it now and refresh, what we should get is the same thing. There we go. But now what we're doing is on a percentage rather than pixel basis, because basically we're working out as a percentage. Now what we want to do is this percentage, not on the handle, but also on this content. So what we're going to do is we're going to update the content style. But what do we want to update here? We don't want to update the left position. We want to update this grid template columns. Rather than 50-50, we want it to be where the kind of handle is, and then the rest of the percentage. So back in my code, I'm going to change the grid template columns. So notice how this is almost like using this kind of capital, so it's grid and then capital T template, capital C columns. So it kind of matches up, except what we do is remove the hyphens and make it capital. Here what we want to do is make this something like left pause and then a right pause. So I'm going to add in a backtick and I'm going to put in a $ and some curly brackets with left pause and then a percentage sign. And for now, oh, percentage, wrong button. And for now, let's just do left pause as well. This is going to be wrong, but let's see if it actually updates. So left pause and left pause. So let's save and refresh. What we'll get now is it is doing 30% roughly and 30%, but there's obviously a gap as well. So it is kind of doing what we expect, except the calculation for this side, the right-hand side, is wrong. So what do we need to do? Well, let's calculate the right-hand side. So back in my code, once I've got the left position, I'm going to do a right position. So what is the basically split here? So if I'm at 30, I want the other side to be 70. If I'm at 50, I want the other side to be 50. So basically what I want to do is get 100% and take away the left pos. And this will always give me basically the other side. So now what I can do is use right pos in the right position, right pos here. So got my left position, working it out, and the right position. Let's see if this works. We refresh, and what we can see now is we get this kind of layout being split. Now, one thing that we don't want to do is make this too small or too big. So what do we want to do here? Well, luckily there's things in CSS that lets us do this. There's a thing called min max, which is really useful. So what I'm going to do in my grid template columns is something around this percentage. And we can actually use this in style sheets as well. So something like this. So if I was to do this in a style sheet, I could say, well, maybe I want this to be a min max. We can see it being highlighted there. And 400 pixels is the minimum and 50% is the maximum. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to replicate this, but not in CSS. So we're going to say in my grid template columns, I want this to be a min, max. I'm going to add some round brackets around the percentage, and I'm going to give it a minimum. So a minimum 400 pixels, or the percentage, whatever's smaller or larger. So let's see if this works. We'll save and refresh. And what we'll get is this can only go to about 400. Notice the handle isn't working, but the column is. So we can see here it's doing the right thing, it's just breaking. So let's fix that. We want to do this on the right side as well. So min max, and we'll do this one to 400 pixels as well. So 400 at the start here to make it not break. So what we'll see now is this going correct. This looks correct. The handle isn't correct though, so let's fix this as well. So here what we can do is kind of the same thing. So we've got a min and a max. What we can do here is min-max doesn't actually work for left position. It only really works for grids. But what we can do here is put in a min around this. And I can put this as something like 400. So let's see if this works. The left position, oops, sorry, max, not min. The maximum it should be is 400. So here we get this going into the right position. And if I go over this side, it breaks, of course. So what I need now is basically the maximum it can go, which is basically how wide this is minus 400. Now, what I need to do is calculate this. So let's add in a max left. This is going to be equal to window inner width minus 400. And what I want to do around this is also put in a minimum. So a min, brackets around all of this stuff. And what I can do here is put in a comma and some $sign, curly brackets, max left. And this also needs to be a px as well. So hopefully this works. Let's see if this looks good. Again, this kind of stops, and then I drag over and we go that way as well. And notice this works for every separate one as well. So this will always kind of limit on here as well. So what we've done is we've added a resizable, draggable layout very, very quickly and very easy to do. It's only 32 lines of code. A lot of it is basically just working out what this looks like. Again, once I'm done, I could say, I don't want to see that handle anymore. I can just hide it away. And this just looks like something that's a kind of like UI thing instead. But we can have a lot of control over this, and we can basically give our users a big say in how our layout works. So remember, this tutorial was requested by someone in the comments. So if there's anything you'd like me to cover, please put it down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and I'll see you in another tutorial very soon.